Welcome. Isn't it nice to be here in person? There's so many of you people we've spoken to on Zoom and stuff like that, and it's wonderful to see you're not actually 30 centimeters high, right? So I know you've probably heard that before, but it is great. And I know many of you have traveled from a long way, right? And that's really is appreciated. I know something like people traveled like 9 hours from Budapest and flown from different places. So we thank you, and a big round of applause to you all for doing it. Thank you so much. That's so what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to walk around a bit as well. So those of you in the front row, be nervous. All right. So because I'm nervous, that's why I walk around a lot. Right? So yeah. So I'm going to. I'm going to kind of take you through like the Callisto Grand philosophy, basically, like why we are where we are today. All right, why we've actually got to this point. Because I know many of you we haven't actually met before. A lot of you it's your first time here. Actually, if you could put your hands up, those of you that are first time here. All right, that's fantastic. Thank you. Really, we do appreciate that. So, so I thought we're going to sort of take you on a bit of a voyage, because the other house rule that Esther just touched on earlier is we do not say the word journey. All right, the word journey is forbidden. Right, and everything we say is banned in the company. We went through all the presentations over the next 3 days, and if anybody put the J word in, we took it out and replaced it with something else. Right? Seriously, we did. Apart from yours, because you sent a PDF and we couldn't do it. Right? But but no, and I'll explain why the J word is so. It's a bit like running your fingers down a blackboard for us, and I'll explain that sort of shortly. Also as well, by the way, yes, there are 47 synonyms for the word journey. Right, so there's plenty of options to use. My favourite one is peregrination. All right, so and there's lots of others as well. So, but do check the synonyms for the word journey. I'm also going to talk about sort of democratization, as Esther touched on just now too. And one of our we feel one of our enemies, and we're going to talk about this, is this deadly EBITDA thing, right? We detest it with a passion, right? And we'll talk about that as well, and the impact of EBITDA. So I guess the first thing then really is to, a lot of you ask over different times, how did we come up with this name? All right, so I'll kind of set the scene, first of all, that a few years ago, those of you who have been with us a long time will remember that we used to be called the Association of Credit for Central and Eastern Europe. Now, that was probably the longest company registered name in Central and Eastern Europe. If you're collecting vowels, it's an absolute belter, right? But it was kind of restricting what we were trying to do. First of all, because the word credit, in many cases is limited in kind of modern business parlance is sort of limited to risk management, setting credit limits and all that kind of thing. Well, it's kind of not really, but that was one thing that people thought, oh, they just set credit limits or something like that. And then the other part was about Central and Eastern Europe, and we've got plans, ambitions, and indeed we're already starting to work way beyond Central and Eastern Europe. We have customers in Mexico. We're talking about doing some work in China, and so we're really kind of starting to move further and further afield. So the name Callisto Grand then came about. So we were trying to think of an alternative. A few years ago, I was swimming in the Adriatic Sea off Dubrovnik, and I had my eureka moment, right? And I thought, right, we'll call it Callisto. Okay, so and this little video, which Paul will play now, will introduce why Callisto. So yeah, it was humble beginnings. It was named after my grandfather's houseboat. That's my granddad on the side, my me mum actually as well. So that's how it started. This was my first home when I was born. as well. So I lived in that house when I was bought that boat for about 3 months or so. Now the Grand bit, so that's Callisto. So the Grand bit, nothing so grandiose, if you like, really. The Grand bit is the canal, right? Because when we were registering the company, there already was a company called Callisto in the Czech Republic. So we had to come up with something slightly different. So we come up with Callisto Grand. So there's the waterway, there's the Grand Union Canal that runs from London to Birmingham. Okay, so that's how we come up with the name of the company. Okay, so yeah, there you go. Okay, so that's the beginnings, right? So the excuse me. So the business side of things then. So we're going on a bit of a voyage. We're not going on the J thing. We're going on a voyage or an odyssey or a peregrination or something for the next few minutes. So my working life started on the 3rd of November 1979. All right, I remember it well. I was just turned 17. I knew everything. I was working in a bank. We used to be called the Midland Bank, now called HSBC. And that's where I started. And the whole kind of how we got to where we are today, right? So the 3rd of November 1979 in Britain, it was very different. We had interest rates, interest and inflation rates way up here, double figures, right? So, and that was normal for a long time, right? As you can see, all through the 80s, the 90s, as I was growing up, being a young man, getting married, having kids, having mortgages, all that kind of stuff. This is normal, right? This is normal. And then after the last recession, things changed a lot, and pretty much the world that most of you came into the workplace was that there's 10, 12 years of zero interest rates, right? So of course that's what that's what you kind of quite rightly think that's how the world is, right? Because we've never known any difference. So most of you, since you left university or school and so on, have been working, it's always kind of been like that, right? However, as you can see, we're kind of getting back to what it used to be before, right? And so this is, and if you could imagine being a young man, children, trying to have a mortgage and everything, and trying to manage this volatility at that time, so these things have a lasting effect on you, right? These things stay with everybody. Everybody was of my generation. By the way, just changing the subject quickly, there was one birthday missed out. It was Esther's on the 30th of September as well, right? She modestly ignored hers too. So this is... So this is kind of normal. This is reality, right? This period here was a nice little honeymoon, but we're coming back to that. So through all my work time, as I was developing my career and so on, people, we've always worked with this background. And then when I started the company up and we were teaching more, and training and coaching and mentoring and so on, we were trying to convince people, although they were used to this kind of world, this was the reality, all right? And be ready, be prepared, right? Because things are going to change. One day the catalyst is going to happen, and you're seeing them. You're seeing these catalysts. Yeah, so that's had a big lasting impact pretty well all my life, to be honest. So, and then we're like, people these days are getting a mortgage and, oh my God, it's 3.45%, that's terrible. Really? So it's important to know these things. So I did some time in the bank, and the biggest lesson I learned in the bank, apart from the fact I'm quite good at talking, as you're probably realizing already, and I'm only 9 minutes into this presentation, is never work in a bank. That was the main thing I learned. It was god-awful, right? So, so then I left there, then I went to a company called EMI, which you might know as a record company, but it's actually it used to be a huge electronics company. And that was when I found credit, right? Like everybody, we all find it by accident. Yeah, did you all find credit by accident? Did you all fall into this thing? Yeah. Nobody left school and said, I'm going to be a credit controller when I get my degree and all that. No. No. Okay, nor me. So I found credit at EMI, right? And I was the only one. I was doing everything. It was high value, low volume. So we were doing credit checking and collections and all that, and I loved it. I found my thing, right? I found my thing because I can talk, I can negotiate, short-term targets, all the stuff I loved, right? So I did that for a while. Then I went to a company called TNT, which I'll talk about more shortly. But then, and I love what I was doing, but I wanted to push it, right? I wanted to push the boundaries. So So I did what all sensible people do around about 1990. I'm now a young man with a family and a mortgage. I left a fairly steady, well-paid job, and I went kind of contracting, right? That's what sensible people do. Not really, right? Sensible people don't do that. But I wanted to test this thing in all sorts of different arenas, different areas. So I started working for lots of different companies, and as I was leaving these companies, I would ask them for a reference. Sometimes I'd be there for some months, sometimes I'd be there for some weeks, right? So, and I'd ask them for a written reference, because that's kind of the thing we used to do. And I've kept them over the years. Now, I'm not showing these to show how wonderful and fantastic I am, but it was really just to show the variety of businesses that there are, right? So the first one was a company called Credit. That was a merchant bank. They actually had a debt collection arm, so I was working in debt collection. This one was frozen chickens, so the unit price of this stuff was like £2.50, something like that, you know. Next one was an automotive company selling to retail. This was a nice one. This was working in gardens, connected to garden centres and decorative stuff and things like that. So a lot of variety, as you can see. And then this one, this is like JCB, you know, big earth moving things. So I kind of went from like unit price of £2.50 to unit price of 250,000. Right, so like almost sort of back-to-back contracts that was, but the point was everything was the same, right? You make stuff, you sell stuff, you send invoices, you got disputes, you try to collect money, you got DSOs and all that. So very much so the philosophy now, you know, when we're talking to lots of different companies, and they say, oh yeah, but we're different. You know, we're in the pharmaceutical industry or we're in electronics, we're different. Not really, you know, yes, you make great. Everybody makes great products, you know, an individual product. That's why they're notable companies. But the thing kind of really is make stuff, sell stuff, get paid for stuff, right? And all the other things that trip it up along the way. And then there was one called Automotive Products, which I brought that up because this was near Birmingham, and I did a short-term contract there. Really interesting little job. But what I found a few years later, so more than 20 years later, is I was actually in this one little factory making automotive products. I was about 200 meters away from a lady called Zoe Wild, who's about 20 meters away from me now, right? So like 100 years ago, she was working for Delphi at the time, when it became active. And I was like about 200 meters away, sort of, you know, in the adjacent building. And then there was TNT, right? So this was the big one. Freight industry is fantastic. It's fast, it's ruthless. High volumes, low value, tiny profits, you know, and you know, if you can imagine working on a 2% profit with an 18% interest rate at the time, you know, you can't hang about, right? You can't hang about. But I learned, but not only apart from credit and collections, I learned things from wonderful mentors like this guy, Roger Corcoran. Managing by walking about, the ultimate, literally, you heard the expression managing by walking about, right? It's a dying art, unfortunately, these days, but just going around your factories, going around your plants, going around your own offices, and just walking about, seeing what's going on, not locking yourself in your machine and sticking headphones on and all that kind of thing. So I learned so many things in this company. It was great. And all these things, like I said, talking about philosophy, so you know, making 50 telephone calls a day, that's what we were measured on, right? Collecting like in less than 35 days DSO and stuff like that. So when we kind of, you know, when we're talking and training and saying, you can make 50 or 35 or 40 phone calls a day, and people say now, well, I might be able to do 20 emails, you know, well, you know, so we got measured every week. Our performance was measured. We have to be, you know, the phone calls, even way back then, the phone calls were measured, you know, so we were reported on every week. So, and you couldn't like phone your mum or your bookies or something like that, you know. So, well, I made 50 calls, you know, but they had to be legitimate calls, outgoing. So, yeah, and then there was this wee beastie. This is what brought me to the Czech Republic, by the way. This is kind of where the shared service centre thing started. And probably like a lot of you, maybe some of you expats that are that are here. Did anybody else kind of just go for a 1-year contract and you're still there? Anybody share that? Right? Yeah. So, yeah, I did. 1 year, let's just sort it out, straighten it out, put a few policies, procedures in, train the staff, and then you're gone, right? So, 18 years later, I'm still there. Not at Norgren, but I'm still in the country. Perhaps they haven't found me yet, I don't know, but I'm still there anyway. So, and this was really transformative as well. So having done all these other, lots of other jobs, and there was other jobs as well I did too. Norgren, I don't think they'll mind me saying, if you were writing a book on how to do a shared service centre set up badly, the worst possible way to do it, to cock up everything you could possibly mess up, right? They wrote it, right? And they said, yeah, 9 months, 12 months, Mark, sort it out. It took 9 months just to find out what was going on, right? So, but it was fantastic. It really was, because I loved this business model. It was something new. It was something exciting for me. And I was doing a lot of research as well, like, well, what is this shared service centre thing? What's it all about? Because this is, like I say, this is 18 years ago, so it was, in some respects, a bit different to how it is today, but in a lot of respects, maybe not. And also around this time, I started doing a degree as well, so that's why I was doing a lot of research into the shared services. So I'll come back to that in a moment. Just to kind of go back then on the story so far, not the J word or anything else, right? The story so far. When we started also, we did everything kind of handwritten, right? When I was working in the bank and I was a cashier, handwritten records, right? Left-hand side, money coming in, right-hand side, money going out, right? And we had to balance at the end of every day. So that, again, was very fast. It was very, very quick, very dynamic. At EMI, this is your portfolio, right? So those of you who knock out an Excel spreadsheet, or you look at, you look at your computer and you see what you got to do on a day. This was ours, right? It was handwritten, leather-bound ledgers, right? And again, this was the receivables ledger, right? So everything was done by hand. And this is only 40 years ago. I'm not that old, right? It was only 40 years ago. And then we. And then in the early 80s, these things came along, Alan Sugar and Amstrad and Commodore and all that stuff. So being the kind of the office junior, one of the youngest people at the time, I go down to the electric shop and I get a great big box with one of these beasties in it, and we actually started writing our own programs, right? Never been done before, so we were putting the payroll and the inventory and all that stuff. We were putting it on this one to start, and then we had this great idea that we start a network. So we bought another one, right? And we put it in the office next door, so with the management accountant, the financial accountant. And literally the network was a whacking great big thick cable that we literally just dragged from one to the other and stuck it in the other room. And then the MD, who was down the end of the corridor, he said, I want to know what you lot are up to. I want some of this as well. So we got in one and just had a longer cable, right? And it was literally just on the floor with a bit of tape on it so we didn't fall over it. And that was the first networks, right? So running our lives on mobile telephones today. I hope I don't sound like my grandfather or anybody else's, but 40 years we've gone from that to this, right? So, so again, with the company philosophy, we still say, you'll hear me say, those of you who work with us on our mentoring or training and so on, you can't beat, with the data, you can't beat touching it, smelling it, feeling it, really getting personal and intimate with it. Because just looking at a screen is not the same as, kind of actually really looking at the information. And going back to TNT and others, I had fantastic mentors who have spent hours taking me through handwritten, even now like basic printed ledgers and so on, and just sharing with us what it was, what to look for, how to prioritize, all this kind of stuff. It was great. I'm the age that I am, but I don't regret a single second of it, to be honest, because we've been through such a fantastic evolution in these years, right? So, okay, cracking on. So then in the early 2000s, I qualified with the UK ICM. When I started doing what is now Callisto in the Czech Republic, they very kindly made me a fellow. So I got a fellowship. And then I did a degree. So all the time I was doing this transition at Norgren, then I went to another shared service centre, similar, and I was travelling extensively. I was the European credit manager and so on. all the time I was doing this this degree, which I also did with young Nikki Kinton over there. Nikki, if you just wave, right? She was a fellow student. Actually, she was the highest scoring student in our year, actually. So, so yeah, we spent many a good weekend together and drank a lot of wine and so on. But believe it or not, we actually studied mature. We were very mature students even then. So this was great. Weekend intensive studies, then back to Brno, working, doing a lot of research, right? The reason why I bring this up is not to say how fantastic I am again, it's just that when we're negotiating with people or we're talking to companies about doing training, a lot of people say, I haven't got the time. I ain't got the time. Work-life balance, I haven't got the time. And there's a lot of people in here, I know, and so I was living on aircraft, I was a European credit manager, I was running everywhere, but I was still studying as well in my spare time and doing a lot of drinking too. I was a bachelor in Brno, I was having a blast, right? But so to sustain with the philosophy, it's just and there I am to prove it. No, it's just that we do have time if we want to. If we want to develop ourselves, if we want to improve, we have the time. We really do have. We really do have the time. And it's worth it, personal development. When you look at all the surveys, ABSL and SSON and all that, say everybody wants to upskill. And then you say, well, we can help you upskill. No, I ain't got the time. I'll put it off or do it later. We'll do it in Q3 2042 or something, right? So again, so we kind of think, really? This is, remember I'm explaining our philosophy and why we work the way we work and why I'm standing here telling you what I'm telling you. And when we were doing the study, I tried to turn all the modules around and try and research on shared service centers, right? And there wasn't a great deal of information. Excuse me, there was like from Deloitte and PwC, the early sort of pioneers, I suppose, of shared services, and they were starting sort of user groups and things like that. So I came across this recently, and I know it's a terrible copy, but it's kind of all the things that shared services want to aspire to, right? So it's things like meeting internal customer satisfaction, reduce costs. Where's the one that's important here? It's about talent, attract the best talent and retain the best talent, right? I have a question. When do you think this report was issued? This is a matter of interest. Somebody just have a guess. Just say 1 year. You're very close. You're very close. It was actually 2009, right, by Accenture. So you're very good. So, Esther, can you give this gentleman a chocky, please? He deserves one. So this is written in 2000. If you look at the ones that have just been issued this year, right, so 14 years later, 15 years later, they are exactly the same. Right, so they have not changed. We still want to attract talent, retain talent. We want to reduce costs. We want to maximize technology and everything that's here 15 years later. So I kind of asked why? Why are we so many years later? Why are we still going round the same circle? Right. I think the answer is our old friend EBITDA that I spoke about earlier, right? And I'm sure I'll mention it again shortly. So moving on then. So kind of moving into sort of the Callisto where we are now, right? So we've all these things over the years when we started the company, and through trial and error, we made a lot of mistakes, as you do when you're a startup, 10 years ago, and then we sort of finally started to hit our stride, if you like. So we started this qualification program. As Esther said, it's CPD accredited. That means CPD stands for Continuous Professional Development. All right, so it's an additional record for each individual to show how much personal time they're investing in their own career, their own future, their own selves. Everybody that's here, by the way, you will get a CPD certificate in a couple of weeks' time, saying that you've invested 20 hours of your time being here, because we see this as a development program, right? That you're learning things all the time. You're learning, right? Even if it's, I wish Harrison would shut up, but we hope that you're going to learn things from each other, from the presentations, and so on. So you will get a certificate for this as well, right? You can have letters after your name. Where are we now? We're yes, and as Esther said, we've introduced this membership program as well. But I think it's not so much a membership; it's more of a movement, right? I think we want this to be more of a movement together. It's not for our aggrandizement, because we believe credit is a fantastic career, right? Like I say, I've been doing this for 40 odd years now. David Wilner's been doing it for a long time, and I know many of you have been in the profession for many years, and it's great, you know. And there is so much that we can get out of it, but there's and we want to build this global movement where everybody can join us and share their experiences, right? Very much saying, yeah, you know, not only just on the process kind of things, you know, we know how to do a DSO or, you know, it's really about the enjoyment that comes, so we can share that, you know. And so we're building this network, you know. We've, as Esther said, we've got 11 members already, which we think is about 500 individual people that are with us. And once we finish the conference, we'll already start to build up the communication and start to get everybody to talk to each other. And it would be kind of an alternative to LinkedIn, right? So it's going to be our own kind of private best practice network. Okay, so that's sort of where we're going with the organization. We do a few other things as well, like we have our own benchmarking measure, right, which is pretty cool, and I'd be happy to show that. We've been using machine learning for a while to help people to analyze telephone calls and actually create visual dashboards like this. So we've been trying to push the envelope with that. So all these opportunities, you know, all these different things that are going on, it all kind of, so we kind of wonder why often there is still such high attrition rates, why there's still such high turnover, right? And as we said earlier, we ran one of our coffee clubs a couple of months ago, and this was the heading of it, right? Really, so democratization of credit versus the dictatorship of EBITDA, right? So, and being in a democracy means that everybody has a vote, everybody has a say. And I think that's important. That's all of us, right? All of you, all of us, because you know, it's not. I don't think it's right, and it's very restrictive that there's still this top-down budgeting, right? You know, somebody somewhere else will say, "Oh yeah, we'll give such and such a company. You can have 50 euros per person, and be grateful for it, right? That's your budget, 50 euros. That, or if that, you know, I know one guy who was told us very proudly a few months ago, or at the beginning of this year, senior manager, director, massive company, billions of euros profit every year, and we're talking to him about, you know, training and all that stuff. He said, "Oh, I signed up for absolutely zero travel and training budget this year." He's got like 200 people in his team, and this one guy said that, "Nope. Nothing. Don't want a single penny." I mean, how inspiring is that? And that's why we have the attrition, right? That's why we have it, because he was so wrapped up in this, right? This EBITDA, which, if we spell that out, says earnings before, right? The key word is before, interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. It's a fantasy, right? This thing is a fantasy, right? Because the reality of the world goes on after, earnings after, right? That's the reality. That's the bottom line of the profit and loss account. That's what the stock exchange see. So why did these supposedly intelligent people go around going, la 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 la, right? We're just going to stop here, right? Because if you don't, you know, if you either spend 1,000, 10,000 euro on training or investment in your people, or you spend 10,000 euros in tax. Earnings before, earnings after. It's pretty much the same, right? So that's the paradox. That's what I'm saying, right? And this is very much our campaign, right? And we want, I guess, we really encourage people that we work with, people that we talk with, like we're doing now, to challenge these things. You know, we're now in Q4. It's budget season. I'd like to urge you to go back, right, and say, right, I want to, you know, we've been to Callisto, or it could be anybody else. Other training companies are available. We want to train our people. It's so much ahead, and I want this budget, right? And then push it back, right? Don't wait. Don't wait for somebody to say, like I just said, we can have 50 euros and get on with it and be grateful. Say, no, I want 500, I want 1,000 euros per person, because I want to train them, then I want to take a few to a conference, and I want to do some business trips, go on, go out with the sales guys, go see the factories, all these things that make a difference, right? These are the things that make a difference, and this is what reduces attrition. So very little cost, right? Very little cost, just a bit of imagination from the people on high. And then we're also, I guess we are very much we like to think that we're actually working with people, right? Another one of our phrases that we don't particularly like is human resources, right? So this is a microphone, by the way. This is called Chucky, all right? So I'm gonna chuck it at somebody, all right? So I should throw it at Peter, who's looking at his phone, but I won't do that. So I'm going to throw it down here. You're going to catch this. Ready? And then I say, are you a human or are you a resource?
I'm both.
No, wrong answer. Right. Something wrong with this microphone. If you throw it. Yeah, we've got 3 of these, and everyone. Right, okay, somebody over here. Okay, are you a human or are you a resource?
No.
Well, we're shared resources
okay.
here.
So, are you a human?
Definitely, yes.
There you are. You're not a resource. You're not.
So
You're not.
am I.
You are indeed. You are indeed. Okay. And yeah, I mean, resources are, they're like, washers and spanners and computer chips and stuff like that. So somebody catch this. There you are. Hey, well done. So. We're going to have to work on this a bit, I can see. So, Nelly, are you human or are you a resource?
Last time I checked, that was me.
Absolutely is the correct answer. Well done. So, okay, so we have 3 of these. They're in all the breakout rooms. We are going to use them, okay, so because we bring them every year, we bring them to a conference, and we're going to get good value for money out of them this year. All right, so say hello to Chucky anyway. Right, okay. Right, yeah, so very, very much sort of people-centric kind of thing, right? So, this phrase came about in the 80s as well. It's not nice. I don't like it. Although somebody said it's now changed. It used to be called personnel. We're having this conversation yesterday. It used to be personnel. Now apparently it's called talent management, right? So we just keep changing the name. But it's the same thing, right? But people, please. And I guess one of the critical parts of what we do is this thing, Ikigai. Anybody come across Ikigai? Anybody heard this before? No? Not even those of you who have done our training course? I know a lot of you have done our training course. And you did the exam last week, Nikki. So okay, Ikigai. Right, Ikigai is a Japanese concept meaning having a reason to live, right? Having a reason to do something. And it's been around for a long time, and it's really all about this, right? So it's about doing things in your life that what you love and what you're good at, what you get paid for, and what the world needs. And that's actually our job. This is what we do, right? All these things. 90% of the world's business is done on credit, right? So it's pretty important. So that's Ikigai. So I'm just going to go through it rather quickly. It invokes all these emotions of passion, right? And it's a vocation and it's a profession, right? There's no process, no transaction there. And if we're going to work 40 or 50 hours a week, yeah, I'll say that again. Right? If we're going to work 40 or 50 hours a week, then let's enjoy it, right? Let's not clock in at 9 and think, oh, right, okay, it's 8 hours so I can clock out. Right? Let's give it our heart and soul. Let's really get into it, right? And that's Ikigai. In Japan, there's no word for retirement in Japan, right? So, and I have no intention to retire either. Some of you might think, oh God, but no, I don't. I'm going to do this till I pop me clogs, basically, because I like what I do. I love it, right? I enjoy it. And talking to philosophy, if we can have one day, well, not too far down the road, we'd love to have, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 of you that have gone through our qualification programs, and then come up to us and say, can I do that? I'd like to be a coach. I'd like to teach this, right? Then I can stop, right? Then I can die a happy man, basically. But not yet. I'm not in a hurry to do that. I've got 30 or 40 years to before I get to that stage. Another way of looking at Ikigai, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's this is more modern. This was in the 1960s, I believe, but it's much the same kind of thing, you know. And the main things, all the stuff down the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, you know, that we need safety and somewhere to live and, you know, all that. These are all the basics that we get from our salaries, right? These are the things that we need. The other, the higher part, right, going back to the Ikigai, now really is this bit about esteem and self-actualization. Now, you can only really get those things from the workplace, right? You can only really get them in work. We can get kind of buzzes and rushes from various things. You know, we can do certain hobbies that fulfill us, perhaps in the short term, and they complement what we do at work, but we have to work for 40 odd years minimum, or yeah. Let's get to this, right? And again, this is the curse of EBITDA, right? Because people are not allowed to express themselves, to expand, so they're not really allowed to get here, and that's why people job hop, go from one job to the other, right? Because they're looking for this and hoping they'll go to the next one, and they'll find it, and then it's kind of recurring, really, you know. So this is what we try to encourage people to reach, you know, reach for these things, but only we can do it ourselves, right? Nobody. Executives are going to say, oh yeah, I'm now going to go and invest in the credit team, and I'm going to give them everything they want, and I'm going to forge careers for them all. It's not going to happen. We have to go and get it, right? We have to go and ask for it, and we have to go and make it happen. Hence the bit about the budget and everything else I was just saying. Very much, okay, so akin to that is emotional intelligence, and all these sort of things really are just all about sort of business end to end, right? So really not working in small processes or small silos, but really understanding the whole thing that goes on in a company, right from the very beginning, buying raw material, right through to the end, because the manifestation of everything that happens in a company, right, all appears in this one document, right? The humble invoice, right? So everything that happens in a company all kind of comes together, crystallizes in invoices. And there's only one department in every company that is touched by every single invoice, which is us. Yeah, that's us. That makes us actually incredibly valuable and important, right? Because this is the lifeblood of every company. Every invoice, they're not just bits of paper. This is the lifeblood and the manifestation and the representation of the quality of every company. We'll whiz through all that stuff for now, right? So that's kind of the businessy sort of stuff, right? Now, I'm just going to touch on some other sort of personal things. That I'm going to tell you a story. I might just run over a few minutes, so bear with me. I'll go back. You don't want to see that all the time, all right? So a year ago, just over September last year, I have a friend of mine in Cape Town, South Africa. He called me in September, and he said, I'm having a birthday party. And he said, would you come over? Could you come? It's my 70th birthday. Would you come over? I said, when is it? He said, it's the 7th of October. And I said, oh, mate, I can't. That was literally the Saturday before our conference last year. Busy. I can't come. I said, but I'll come later in the year. I'll definitely before Christmas, I'll come. And he went, all right. You sounded a bit kind of, you know, a bit off. And I didn't really think anything about it because I was so wrapped up in my world and doing the conference and everything. And didn't hear from him. Then literally on the morning of the conference last year, so it was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the same, almost corresponding dates last year, I get some photographs from his wife sent from his party that was on the Saturday. And I thought, oh, you don't look too good. You don't look very well. You know, he's sort of surrounded by his family, his children, his grandchildren, and so on. And as I was driving home after the conference on the Saturday that year, I phoned him, Alan, and I didn't get a reply. Then I phoned his wife, and I said, thanks for the pictures, what's going on? He says, basically said, you know that thing you said about coming over at Christmas? And I said, yeah. He said, could you let's make it a bit sooner, right? Because he might not make Christmas, right? So literally, yeah, so there I was. I drove home on Saturday, and Monday night I was in Cape Town, basically. And I stayed a week. I stayed a week, and of course the guy was not good. He was in palliative care. A lot of the time he was on very pain-killing drugs, so he was zonked out. But when he was lucid, it was nice, and we spoke a bit and so on. To cut that story short, really, I flew home a week later, and he died a few days after that. The point of that is, that's not to depress you too much. The point is that as we get older and we go through life, right, that the biggest gift that death can give us is to not procrastinate. Do not waste a moment, right? Because we never know. Alan's demise was 3 months from being diagnosed with this cancer to checking out was a very short time. So I was thinking about that, and I thought, there's so many more things I want to do in my own life, and there's so many more things I want to do with Callisto as well. And the phrase, a couple of weeks ago I had the tattoo done, and it says carpe diem, right? That's the point of this horrible picture. It says carpe diem, seize the day, right? Don't waste a moment. And this phrase has had a great deal of significance on me, particularly this year, because I'm just thinking, God, bloody hell, we've got to get on with it. We cannot hang about. And then just think, right, what do I want to do with the company? I'm not, I think I'm going to be around for a few decades, I hope, but I just thought, let's get on with it, right? Carpe diem. So things I wanted to do. I wanted to align us with charities, right? It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and now we started doing it. And as with all things, when you kind of reach out to the universe, they kind of come to you. Right, when you say, I want to, but I don't know what charity. There are millions of them, right? So through our good friend Emmanuel, who's over there, our camera guy, who's connected to, he was doing some research on this new project that happened to be just north of Brno, which was a discovery. So basically we found Schindler's Ark, right? For those of you who know the story of Schindler's List, Schindler's Ark is 50 kilometers north of Brno. And there's a whole restoration project going on there. And around about 5 o'clock today, with Daniel Lobbier and the guys in the front row, wave, right? So these guys from Meeting Brno are going to tell you all about that, right? So this is one of our charities, Saving the Ark, right? Another one with Arlene. Hello, yes, Arlene Mitchell. This is all about climate change, right? So this is Regen Innovation. This is about raising the awareness of climate change, and tomorrow Arlene and our colleague, her colleague in America, will join us live and talk about what they're doing. And then there's another one, multiple sclerosis as well, because I know a few people with this condition. But it's not only about MS, right? I mean, that's a condition in itself, and it's a very painful condition. But it's what all charities do like this, whether it's a cancer charity or whatever. It's the counselling that these people do, right? The medical research is vital, but it's the counselling and the care, right? So we're raising awareness for these through what we do. We contribute €15 to each of these for everybody who pays for conference, everybody who signs up with our certificate, and so on. So we've done something like €2,000 for each one ourselves, right? Through your kind donations of coming to here today. But we want to, we're introducing both of these presentations, climate change and the Ark, because we kind of want, hopefully some of your corporates will want to get involved, right, on a bigger scale. We're not asking you individually to contribute, but we want you to think, hey, maybe we can get involved in these from your companies. But it's just about raising awareness, right, and that all of us can make a difference, right? We can all go back, we can all talk to our line managers, and we can all say, hey, look, can we get on board this? Can we do something, whether it's individually or as a company? Okay, so this was, kind of a little bit carpe diem, something I wanted to do. For something else I wanted to do. For those of you who know me, I will bore anybody rigid for hours on end on the wonders of Bruce Springsteen. My companion for 45 years or something. It was also an ambition, and I bore my team, Esther and Pavlina and David and so on. I bore them rigid about the wonders of Bruce Springsteen. And in July, I wanted them to see it themselves. So in July, I actually got to take my team to Vienna, and they saw a Bruce Springsteen concert themselves, right? So there was a lot of screaming going on from Esther and Pavlina. I don't know if it was because they were hating it or whether they're enjoying it. I've never had the heart to ask, but there was a lot of screaming going on, and a lot of mojitos went down as well that night. But anyway, so another thing, another ambition kind of done. And then I did this stupid bloody thing, this thing you think seems like a good idea over a few gin and tonics. So I go run a half marathon. Yeah, I can do that. And I'll do it before I'm 61, right? Yeah, like you do. But I did. It took me forever. I think the clocks went back before I finished, whatever. It didn't matter, but I'd done it, right? I did it, and I was knackered, and I couldn't move for days and all that, but I did it. But, and the reason why, as I was going around thinking, this is the most stupid bloody thing I've ever done in my life. It was hot, I was aching, whatever, but I thought, well, when people say they haven't got the time to prepare for something, I ran, and I was like Forrest Gump. Well, a very slow Forrest Gump, right? I mean, there was no sonic boom, right? Trust me, but I practiced and I trained week after week after week, and I did my best, and I got round, and so I can actually say to people, you have got time, right? Whether you're learning qualification or you're doing something like this, if you want it, you can do it, right? That's what I'm trying to say. We did a few other things. Esther touched on those things, so I won't do those. We wanted to expand on the way to teach. So all that coffee club clinic and our mentoring sessions, our teaching, we wanted to do it not just sitting behind a computer in my pajamas, like we do on all Zoom calls and webinars and so on. And with the support of these wonderful people over here, our team here, they have a studio in Brno, a green screen studio. So we do all these coffee clubs and so on from there, and it's great to be able to do it in a different dimension, right? So another thing that we want to try push boundaries, really. So and a lot of people say they like it, right? As Esther was saying, the attendance numbers are high. So I guess we're doing something that other people like as well, and we appreciate that, because we're just trying to do something different, not keep normal all the time, right? That's why the journey word, right? I kind of think it just represents being a bit lazy. We use the same word over and over and over and over again, and we don't really think about what it actually means, right? A journey means you go from start here and you're going somewhere, a fixed place, right? And most of the shared service centre kind of voyages are a bit rootless. They're not actually quite sure where they're going, right? So we kind of think, if you're going to use that word, use it sort of properly. So something else we just started, because we like to make things difficult. We're a team of 4, basically, most of the time. So not only did we prepare for the conference with all you wonderful people here, we also decided to set up a new website. We decided to completely rewrite our e-learning program and start this membership as well, all at the same time. Right. So that's why Esther says we have a damn good team, because we've actually pulled all these things off, just 4 of us between us, right? Mainly the others, right? I just shout at them and ask them to do stuff, and they keep doing it. So way beyond Ikigai. And then finishing off with the membership kind of thing. One of the things we ask or we invite really is for somebody to be an ambassador of the company, be a representative. We call it an influencer, right? And this is the banner that you can put on your LinkedIn profile. I took a few because I thought I'd embarrass a few people here, because it's one of the things I enjoy doing, and I can see from the lady in the front row that I've succeeded fantastically there. So I will apologise, right? So, these are our influencers, and there's more, right? There's more to come. So that's it, really. So I say that was kind of a whistle-stop tour of the philosophy of Callisto. Don't look at me like that. The philosophy of Callisto Grand. That's why we act the way we act. That's why we do what we want to do. That's why we created these programs, opportunities, membership, learnings, and so on. I hope that kind of, when some of you might think, he's a bit weird, that bloke, that Harrison fella, I don't quite know where he's coming from. I hope now rather quickly, I hope you might kind of understand a bit more why we do what we do and why we say what we say and why we act perhaps a little bit strangely. All right, so that was it, the book according to Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you.